I love coming to Capernaum. Capernaum is one of the favorite places to go in Israel. And the reason is because so many things with regards to Jesus' life happened there. And so it's a great place to go to. It's a great place to visualize exactly where it sits on the sea. When you stand there on the shore, you can actually visualize a little harbor there that boats went in and out of. And no doubt Peter and his fishing partners did all the time.
Well, you think about it from Jesus' perspective. This is the first place that Jesus goes from his family's home in Nazareth. This is his home. This is where he's meeting people. This is where he spends the majority of his time. This is the place where his family comes to get him at one point, thinking that he's lost his mind. And this is the place where he explains, look, my family, my mother, and my brothers are the ones who do the will of my Father. So it's a special place to Jesus, even though eventually it's a place that he ends up condemning because of their lack of belief. One of the standout features of Capernaum is the 4th century synagogue, built on top of the foundation of the 1st century synagogue that Jesus would have used. And so you know right underneath your feet, this is a place where Jesus taught. This is a place where Jesus read from the scrolls. This is a place where so many things happened. And even though you're not in the space, you're above the space. You know that's the area. So there's so much to Capernaum for anybody who's been reading their Gospels. When Jesus was rejected at Nazareth, he came about 25 miles over the north side of the Sea of Galilee to Capernaum.
That's right.
And he makes Capernaum his hometown. We're standing right now in a 4th century synagogue. What's significant about that?
In Luke, the 7th chapter, it reads, "After he had finished all his sayings in the hearings of the people, he entered Capernaum. Now a centurion had a servant who was sick and at the point of death, who was highly valued by him. And when the centurion heard about Jesus, he sent to him elders of the Jews, asking him to come and heal his servant. And when they came to Jesus, they pleaded with him earnestly, saying, 'He is worthy to have you do this for him, for he loves our nation, and he is the one who built us this synagogue.'" So we are standing in a 4th century synagogue, but it's on the foundation of a 1st century synagogue, the synagogue that's mentioned here in Luke, the 7th chapter.
We know from Mark that this is one of the synagogues that Jesus came and taught in over in Mark chapter 1, where people were just amazed at his teaching.
Yes.
Because he taught as one who had authority, and they were just so impressed with what he was saying and how he was saying it. There are just so many things that happen here. And you mentioned there's significance to the port here.
That's right. Jesus used the port here at Capernaum a number of times as he traveled across the lake,
Right.
going to different places he needed to go to.
Standing here in this synagogue, it's really easy to visualize what it would have been like to have the synagogue be the center of the town.
Sure.
And really easy to visualize what life must have been like. You walk out through the door and you can see the remains of the city. You go down toward the beach, which you could have seen from here as it goes down.
This synagogue here would have been just like many other synagogues in the region, in which as you exited, the door always faced Jerusalem.
Okay. And the 1st century synagogue would have been made out of basalt stone. So it wouldn't have been this white that we're seeing.
That's right.
It would have been a darker black volcanic rock. It's a really neat layout, a very consistent layout.
It really is. From city to city, town to town, they had the same type of synagogue. They may have had little small differences in sizes, but they would have been the same basic layout.
Okay.
See what you have here, little prayer notes in the wall. People will come through here and they'll write down a prayer on a little piece of paper and stick it in the wall. This is reminiscent of what they do in Jerusalem at the Western Wall.
Right.
And so the thought is that prayers that are put into the wall will be sent directly to God.
Because they see this as a holy site or a sacred site.
That's right. It looks like they've picked up the practice here in Capernaum.
I mean, these pieces of paper, some of them are so tiny, and they're cramming them into these little nooks and crannies and cracks.
Every little available space will be taken up.
One of the things that makes Capernaum special is it's a place that's been developed and preserved really well. I mean, you can see the outlines of the 1st century streets, of the alleyways, of the houses. One of the features there is this very rich tradition identifying Peter's house, the probable location where Peter lived, where Jesus would have healed Peter's mother-in-law. A very strong, reliable tradition. But to be able to look at that spot and think, that probably happened there.
It's a little odd when you first see it because
Yeah.
about 20, 25 years ago, they actually built a church building over it. And so what you have underneath there are the remains of a Byzantine church, and down at the bottom are the remains of a 1st century dwelling. And so the thinking is that, well, if the Byzantines so many centuries ago thought there was some importance to this place, this may be the house of Peter.
There's a verse in the Gospels that talks about how Jesus taught in the synagogues in Galilee. There's this very vague There are multiple synagogues, multiple towns. We don't know specifically which one Jesus taught in. But Capernaum we do. We know that Jesus taught in the first century synagogue in Capernaum. So to have that specificity and standing right above it is just, it's unique, it's special, it was beautiful.
I'm Craig.
And I'm Stu, and we're the founders of Appian Media.
We really hope that you've enjoyed the content that you've just seen. This was only made available through the generous donations of so many of you.
We believe that the world should have biblically accurate, visually engaging content about the Bible, and it should be free for everyone.
We would encourage you to visit the membership page of appianmedia.org and consider becoming a reoccurring member. Everything that you donate to Appian Media is tax deductible.
However you decide to donate, we really appreciate your support.